Hey there, welcome to The Honest Shelf. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today we are going to look at Influence by Dr. Robert Cialdini. This is something that has absolutely changed how I see leadership, decision-making, and honestly, my entire life. So let me ask you one simple question. When was the last time that you said yes to something, immediately thought, what did I just do? Maybe you bought something that you don't actually need. Maybe you agreed to grab coffee with someone that you really wanted to say no to. Or maybe you found yourself nodding along in a meeting when the gut was screaming, this person has no idea what they're talking about. Yeah, I've been there too many times to count. For me, it happened with this book, or even when I watch Ali Abdaal talk about some productivity hack or his book, or looking at Daniel Priestley or something like that. I have this knee-jerk reaction that I need to read that book and go watch that video right now. Or when Alex Hormozy sets a Guinness World Record with his book launch, and boom, I am convinced that I have to go out and purchase $100 million money models, which I did because they have power over me. But here's the wild part. These people have never met me, and I've never met them. I've never had a conversation with them. I've never sat down and actually enjoyed one-on-one time with them, but they have so much influence over my life. And that's exactly what we'll be unpacking kind of as we walk through this book together. So first things first, this book came out in 1984, which was well before me. And yet there still is this definitive guide to understanding how and why people say yes, and it is this book. So if you are in any type of leadership position, then this isn't just about learning persuasion tricks or different tactics or weapons. It's about understanding the invisible forces that are shaping every single interaction, every negotiation, every decision that is happening in your organization and in your life. So Cialdini breaks down this into really 6 core principles of influence. And by the way, he later added a 7th in the updated version. But today we're going to be focusing on those core 6 that are really just game changers for me and for millions of other people that have read this book. So let's jump in. All right, so let's look at principle 1, which is reciprocity. This is just one simple but incredibly powerful tool that we all humans are obligated to return favors. Period. End of story. We constantly feel that obligation. If someone does something for us, we have to do something in return. And as a leader, that means those small gestures you make, right? Those little gestures that you make matter way more than you think or you give yourself credit for. When you help someone on your team succeed, or when you actually share credibility or the credit to those people, or you remember small details about people's lives, that is building a reservoir of goodwill that influences everything that you will do moving forward. See, it's not manipulation, it's just how we're wired. If you remember maybe a colleague's child's name, and they're gonna feel like we have some type of connection going on because so-and-so remembered my son or my daughter, and that will make that person feel more obligated to remember your kids' names, or remember a fun fact, or something like that, a small gesture that they can have in return to have that camaraderie or that reciprocation back and forth. And when you go to ask for something in the future, the likelihood of them agreeing to that is going to be extremely high. Principle 2, commitment and consistency. So number 2, this is one that has absolutely transformed how I work with teams. So here's just a little bit of insight. Once people make a decision in public, they stick with it. It's like a psychological contract with themselves. And I've seen this firsthand multiple times. When team members publicly commit to goals in front of their peers, their follow-through skyrockets. And it's not because of pressure or fear. It is because we have a deep-seated need to align our actions with our stated values. We want to be consistent in our word. So if you want your team to follow through, get them to commit publicly. It really does change everything. I was in a meeting recently with a large group of people, and I've kind of been struggling with one-on-one getting commitment out of people. And I just posed the question, can I please have your commitment to do this by this date so that we can really have a better impact on the company? And in that moment, I think it clicked with them because they're like, yeah, no, absolutely. That's super easy to do. Even though I've been asking multiple times individually via email or face-to-face, and nothing has happened. But being able to have that commitment made publicly, I have seen my request have fruit, because now I don't have to wait on those things. So again, commitment and consistency. So principle number 3 is social proof. We look to others when we are uncertain. That's just kind of what it is. Think about when you go to a restaurant for lunch, maybe with some coworkers or a friend, and it's a brand new place and you've never been before. First question you're probably going to ask is, what is good here? The second question is, what are you going to get? Okay? We want to make sure that we are making the right decisions, so we follow the crowd, even when they're wrong, right? I've been to restaurants where I've ordered lunch because somebody else is getting the exact same thing, and it was a gazpacho, and it was disgusting. I hated it. But I went along because I was trusting that the person I was with had a good taste in food, and that social obligation that I felt because I was uncertain. I'm relying on them to help me make that decision. In leadership, this is why the behavior that you model cascades through the entire organization. High performers are watching you constantly. They're looking up to your actions to figure out how they should respond. So you set the tone, and you are the social proof, because that's all going to trickle down from you as a leader. Is we are all looking to you to, with our uncertainty, we're looking to you to make that decision, and then we will follow in step with you. All right, so principle number 4 is authority. And it's really not in the way that you think, more than likely. This isn't about your title, your pay scale, where you sit in the org chart, or if you've got a beautiful office or not. This is all about credibility. Cialdini shows that genuine expertise and transparent communication create way more influence than positional power ever could. So here's my example. So I'm not taking advice on what makes Chipotle's chicken the best, probably from the CEO, okay? I'm listening to the person who's actually cooking the chicken. They're doing the work. They know the sauces, the marinades, how long it needs to sit on the grill to have those crispy bits. They also know how to keep it extremely moist, how much sour cream and cheese and white rice and black beans needs to go together to make the perfect bite. They have the authority. They have the influence. So real credibility beats borrowed authority every single time. Your positional power means nothing if you have no credibility and you don't have transparent, clear communication. So number 5 is liking. And I know that sounds incredibly superficial, right? But the research is pretty crystal clear on this. We are influenced by people we genuinely like. For me personally, I connect way more with Stephen Bartlett than I do with Jeff Bezos. Okay, Stephen's hungry to learn. He's super humble. He's relatable. And yes, he wears some seriously dope black shirts that I'm usually rocking as well. So Bezos, though, okay, on paper, incredible achievements. I mean, just ridiculous. He is driven, and the drive that he has, I can admire, but I just don't feel that connection with him. So when Stephen Bartlett asked me to subscribe on his podcast or buy his book or get a Whoop, I'm going to be way more likely to say yes, because I connect with him as a 30-something-year-old entrepreneur trying to make a difference. So for leaders, this is huge. It underscores the importance of authenticity. finding common ground and actually caring about your team members as people, not just as resources. Be likable, be authentic, and you will have influence in droves. All right, number 6, scarcity. The good old fear of missing out. Nobody likes FOMO, right? So here's the thing, a 5-minute conversation with someone who constantly is booked feels incredibly more valuable than a 5-hour conversation with your favorite colleague. Why? Well, it's because that person that you can only get 5 minutes with, their time is incredibly scarce. And when something is scarce, it feels way more impactful. We assume that any meeting with that person only has 5 minutes on the calendar. Your words and their words are going to be chosen with intention. Okay? So now scarcity breeds urgency. And when applied ethically and correctly, this principle helps leaders create healthy urgency around important initiatives, right? Without manufacturing fake deadlines or creating like this toxic pressure. Think about scarcity in when you're online, okay? Buy now, act now. You have 3 minutes before this goes away. You feel this urge that you have to do it right then and there or you're gonna completely miss out. And then lo and behold, if you go on there a week or two later, that thing is still saying the exact same thing. Buy now, scarce, we got 2 minutes left. So that is creating this manufactured deadline, this toxic pressure, and it's completely garbage. But if you use scarcity properly, you can have great success with driving urgency and having necessary deadlines put in place. All right, so after a brief overview of these 6 principles, I think we need to understand something highly important. Cialdini in this book is not trying to teach you manipulation tactics, okay? These are not things that we need to be utilizing as weapons, but he's trying to teach recognition, right? So once you understand how these principles operate, and you really can't unsee them. They're operating everywhere, all the time, all at once. But more importantly, you start noticing when you are being influenced, which makes you way more of a better decision maker, really. And then since reading this book, my eyes have been opened and I can see these tools in every single day, right? So in ads, in politics, in sales calls, team meetings, when I go out to lunch. Heck, I'm unfortunately kind of doing it now. I'm trying to influence you into spending more time with me, trying to become likable so that you realize that I'm a real normal human person and I'm not trying to manipulate you. So recognizing these principles really in my life, it doesn't make me discount people's recommendations, but it helps me evaluate whether these factors are genuinely relevant or just persuasive packaging, okay? That's the real gift of this book for leaders especially. It makes you simultaneously more influential and more thoughtful about when and how you deploy influence, okay? So with all that, let's talk a little bit about ethics here. We've kind of been diving into this. So Cialdini emphasizes that these principles are tools, right? They are not weapons. The most effective leaders that I know, that I read, that I research, that I watch, they use these insights to remove friction for good decision making, not to manipulate people into bad ones. They use reciprocity to build genuine relationships with people. They use authority to share their hard-won expertise. They use commitment to help people stick with the goals that they genuinely value. The leaders who misuse these principles, yeah, sure, they're out there. They might get a short-term win, but it is temporary. People eventually recognize manipulation. And trust, once it's broken, it's nearly impossible to rebuild. Okay, so who should read this book? Honestly, I think every single person needs to, that can read, should read this book. And I genuinely mean that. I'm not some fanboy. I've never read anything else by Dr. Cialdini, but this book, as a parent, you should absolutely read. I've got 3 kids under the age of 7, and it's funny because they're trying to influence me using these same 6 principles where I'm trying to influence them using the same 6 principles. So being able to see that as a parent, I think if you're in any leadership position where you're leading anyone, influence belongs on your desk. And I'm not talking about on your bookshelf, but I'm talking about on your desk. highlighted and ready to go at all times. And I think this book is particularly valuable if you have to navigate complex stakeholder conversations or relationships where you don't really have a formal title of authority. I think this book is incredibly helpful there. If you're trying to build a new team and you're trying to establish a new cultural norm, I think this book is outstanding in that. If you're coaching others on executive presence or communication, or if you're simply just interested in the fact of how certain leaders are so influential, almost effortlessly, and then other leaders who just completely suck at it. So I think this book gives you a great framework to be able to see those things. And again, I recommend this book to everyone. So influence does something incredibly rare. It takes complex psychological research and it turns it into this immediate, applicable insights without dumbing it down either. So Dr. Cialdini writes this book with such clarity and uses these memorable stories that make the principles stick in your brain for months after reading it. So 4 decades after publication, so again, this book was published in 1984, so over 40 years, and we're now in the age of AI where half the videos you watch on any social media is going to be probably AI generated. This book is still applicable because it describes something fundamental about the human psychology. Because technologies change, organizational structures will change and evolve, but the basic drivers of influence, they remain remarkably constant. So I want to hear from you. Which of Cialdini's principles do you see operating most powerfully in your organization or in your life? And have you noticed these dynamics in your recent decisions or interactions? I want you to drop your thoughts in the comments below, because I genuinely do read every single one because I don't have very many right now. And I would love to hear from your experiences. And if you haven't read Influence yet, please start there. Then watch as you begin seeing the principles everywhere. And then once you understand the psychology of persuasion, you really cannot unsee it. And that awareness makes you both a better leader and a more intentional decision maker. So if you've enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you subscribe, please, and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss my next video coming out. And it's going to be the book, The Diary of a CEO by Stephen Bartlett. So again, subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Leave a comment. Let me know which ones you are most interested in these principles. As well, if you have a particular leadership book that you really enjoy and you would like my thoughts on, please drop a suggestion in the comments, because your input is going to help me shape what I cover next as I move forward in this fun journey that I am thrilled and very anxious about. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video.